You are living in the most dangerous time in American history.
We won't take a single back step.
Former professional basketball player is now the Republican Party's choice.
Can you imagine Royce White, the U.S. Senate?
White won the endorsement on May 18th with 67% of the vote.
There's nothing that guarantees we win, but I guarantee you if we lose, we will die. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is episode 273. Today is Wednesday, August 27th, year of our Lord 2025. It's been a while since I've been with you in the chair. We appreciate all of your support, your viewership, and listenership. We gotten a lot of emails saying, what's going on with the podcast? Well, the Minnesota State Fair kicked off this past week, and a lot of time and energy and organization goes into the Minnesota State Fair. It's one of the highlights, one of the most important times of a political campaign. And we're happy with the results so far at the Minnesota State Fair. Over the course of 11 days, I think around 1.8 million Minnesotans will come through the Minnesota State Fair. So it's a great time to get in front of the constituents. This year we had a much bigger and better booth than we had last year. We've signed up almost 1,000 people, if not more, to our email list and to volunteer and help and other things like that. And we've given away some great T-shirts, one of which you see here. The Jesus is King shirt, and we'll be talking about the horrific and tragic shooting that took place this morning at Annunciation Catholic School, as well as some other things that have been on my mind for a while. So strap in, because we're going to be here for a little bit tonight. Again, I know we haven't had the podcast, or at least this podcast, with me here solo for a while, but it's only because of the Minnesota State Fair and some of the other things we're trying to get organized for the podcast. Look, we're shadow banned on YouTube. We know it. I mean, when you have Alex Jones on your 17th episode and you get that interview, that video removed forcibly by YouTube, this is well before everybody started to come back into a little sanity after Donald Trump was elected, or even after he started to gain momentum late in 2024. You're going to be shadow banned. You know, the algorithm is going to work against you, but we're constantly trying to find ways to overcome the algorithm, and whether it's more content or shorts or clips or reels, or, you know, even the way that we use titles and things like that, we're doing our best to overcome that so we can get to a broader audience and help improve the conversation, of which we're going to attempt to do again tonight, even though we weren't on schedule to do a solo deep dive. The events of today and of the last week or so call for this type of episode, and maybe we'll have Professor Penn in on for a Hebrews. I'm really trying to push AJ Barker, the great AJ Barker, to come in for a Hebrews episode with us for this Friday, given that he was the principal at a Catholic school, and me and him and I talked earlier today about the shooting that took place and just some of the Catholic perspective on where the church currently is and the Catholic and Christian community, as well as the rest of the country. It's always great to have two very, very insightful individuals like A.J. Barker and Professor Penn in the studio at the same time. So we'll see if we can get that done. If not, we will in the near future. Interviews coming up include Alex Jones. I talked to him recently, and we're due to have him back on the podcast for a long format interview, as well as the great Matt Gaetz and some others. Try and push Steve to get on as well, given that he's another Catholic brother of mine in this fight. We got a lot going on. I hope you're watching the Professor Penn podcast. If you're not watching the Professor Penn podcast, you're seriously missing out. I mean, Professor Penn is going through the who's who of Minnesota Republican Party leaders, participants, officers, activists, you name it. I mean, Professor Penn's really getting down when it comes to Minnesota Republican politics, which He does because he loves me, and he cares about this state. He cares about our country, but he cares about this state, and he cares about the condition of the Republican Party, which will have some bearing on my endorsement and the way this entire 2026 midterm goes for us as a campaign. But it's more of a microcosm. We're going to talk about a lot of that stuff here today. But first and foremost, I would like to say my thoughts and prayers go out to the families of Annunciation, the ones that we lost, the children that we lost today is an incredible tragedy. Again, my thoughts and prayers are with you. Let us ask the Lord Jesus Christ to welcome them into His kingdom with special favor. Um, yeah, I mean, rough day for us here in Minnesota, and frustrating as well. I'm at the epicenter of Minnesota politics, so anytime something like this happens, of course, my phone is gonna ring off the hook, and I'm gonna get the first updates on all of the things related to the incident, including comments made by other politicians. And in true Democrat fashion, Amy Klobuchar was on MSNBC earlier and essentially blamed the school shooting there at Annunciation on Republicans, Donald Trump, and guns, the Second Amendment, of course. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of Democrat politicians, especially those from the state of Minnesota, echo a similar sentiment as Senator Amy Klobuchar. Um, Man, I say this with all due respect, especially to the families, because there's a part of me that hesitates to even talk about this issue because of how sensitive, obviously, how sensitive it is. But and again, you hesitate because you go, we don't want to politicize tragedy, especially the tragedy of young children losing their life in the first week of school. I mean, truly, truly a horrific, demonic act of violence. But these are the times that we're living in. And I don't say that to be nonchalant about it at all. In fact, the, quite the contrary. I think that our urgency must start to match the circumstance, the situation that we live in, the times that we are in. And I've been saying it for a long time. And I told Jack, and I've told Steve, and I've told everybody, Alex, everybody, we got to be tougher. We got to be tough. We got to become tougher. And whether it's the Christian community and this great schism that exists still between the Catholics and the Protestants, or within the Republican Party, we still fight Donald Trump, and I don't mean to politicize it, but at a level, it is political. And the story of Jesus Christ is a political story. I mean, certainly his journey and his life was enmeshed in the politics there in Israel, and the politics of the Roman Empire, the politics of his time. So politics are always relevant. We kind of, I think, get fatigued by politics because there's so much political turmoil and political chaos, and leads to corruption. So I understand that people are worn out in some sense by politics, but we have to stay in the fight. Maybe more now than any time before. This is our this is our defining moment. And people say, "Oh, well, 2024 was a defining moment. We elected President Donald Trump, and against all odds, and he survived an assassination attempt by another left wing nut job." But at the end of the day, that was just a battle of many, many to come. And now the defining moments will persist into the future until we undo what we allowed to have happen in this country. We allowed the Marxists to take our schools. We allowed the communists to take our schools. We allowed them to take our institutions. We allowed their voices to become prominent in American media and in American culture. We allowed the Satanic Temple and the Church of Satan and all these other sort of demonic institutions to promote themselves and have some clemency, you could say, some cultural clemency in terms of normal, being considered normal, being considered reasonable, rational, a repudiation of Christianity and the corruption in the Catholic Church. We allowed these things to fester and now bubble up and bubble over, and I know that that's hard to hear, especially this evening on the tail end of a great tragedy like the shooting of children at the Annunciation Catholic School here in Minneapolis. But the truth is the truth. We have to become tougher. We have to take these things much more serious. And I say we, I mean the Christian community. I mean the Catholic Church. I mean that we have to really start to acknowledge, recognize, and get ourselves in gear for the war that we're in. And we're starting to. I see that the Catholic conversion or the baptism, the participation, of the Catholic faith is at an all-time high. It's at like a 5 or 10-year high. So people are coming back to the Catholic Church. They're coming back to Christ. They're coming to God. They're looking for answers. They're trying to put their lives in order, and we are happy about that. It's a sign of the times to come. But we also have to continue to push down on the gas pedal. We have to floor it in a sense. I don't think people understand how bad it's gotten. You know, and it's not even political. It's definitely more spiritual. It's certainly psychological, but it's definitely more spiritual in the sense that, and if this manifesto that this suicide note ends up being authentic from this shooter, um, it clearly demonstrates a level of narcissism and nihilism that can only be described rightly as demonic. And what makes something demonically possessed? You could say, in short, it's kind of devoid of all sense of humanity. And what is humanity? That I exist as an individual, as an individual being, an individual entity. Yeah, I exist independently from everybody else, but also with everybody else. That I live in conjunction with, in society with, in Christ with everybody else. And so when I start to think that my pain or my suffering or my life is so uh, you know unbearable that I justify indiscriminately killing innocent children, there's a display of selfishness in that is indicative of our entire society, and it's indicative from the top down. It's not just the school shooter. Now there is a special place in hell for this school shooter, but it's not just this school shooter. This is an in, this is the climatic event of a society that has become decadent, and we have been. And we look across, we see all the signs and symbols. And I've been saying since I was on Jason Whitlock, which is probably part of the reason why he didn't want me on there anymore, because I'm the doom and gloom guy. I sort of, bang the drum and ring the bell until everybody's somewhat exhausted by it. And some of that is necessary, right? I believe some of that is necessary. Now, can we have fun and be entertained and pass the time by with joyous moments and, great experiences and fun? Absolutely. But my fear is that we spend far more time, on the fun and entertainment side of things than we do actually handling business. And what's even more scary is we seem to have selected for a political archetype, a sort of political profile that will allow us to engage in the fun and entertainment more than we do the business. Which is scary in and of itself because it's like, hey, if you just want to stick your head in the sand, they say ignorance is bliss, and you want to have fun and be entertained and just live your life and enjoy it. I understand that. I mean, there's a lot of logic to that. But at the same time, then please, for heaven's sake, at least have the courage, have the sacred honor when you go into those election polls, when you go into that election poll and you cast your ballot for somebody who will sacrifice the fun and entertainment and the sort of joy of life to get the tough things done, to have the tough conversations, to challenge the tough the tough realities of our society and of our culture. At least do that. And I don't think we do that. I don't think we do that. I don't think we've selected for that even in the Christian community. And that's the critique of us. We have to get tougher. We have to be stronger. We have to be more involved. We have to be more involved. We have to understand that at some level, blood is on our hands. Not in the way that Amy Klobuchar says, not because we believe in the Second Amendment, not because we profess our faith of Christ, not because we are willing to vote for Donald J. Trump, not because we want to send our kids to Catholic schools. Certainly not. Certainly that isn't where the blood falls on our hands. Where the blood falls on our hands is we have become apathetic to the dark forces that are permeating our society and our culture. We have become apathetic. So apathetic, in fact, that we find some way to rationalize why we don't have armed guards or armed teachers at these schools, why we don't have armed, Christian soldiers, in a sense, at our Catholic schools, at our Catholic churches, as though the great apostles that walked with Jesus Christ walked without swords. I mean, I told the story the other day on my show, the Royce White Show, there on Real America's Voice Saturday morning. I told the story of when Jesus had to kind of rein Peter in, and the centurion guard, Peter draws his sword and cuts the ear off of the centurion guard, and Christ has to tell Peter, hey, Peter, slow down, man. You're not going where I'm going. Get behind me, Satan, you know. And in that sense, we understand that Christ's journey was set for him, and Christ understood it. But there is something in the parable, in the gospel, that clearly articulates the apostles were not pacifists. The apostles were willing to do violence, and they were willing to defend Christ, and they were willing to defend themselves if need be. They were at least willing to deal with the reality of the time, that things are dangerous, and to have a sword is not to be violent, is not to be reckless, is not to be unforgiving of thy neighbor. It's to say, I'm not willing to become a victim of a circumstance of the times, of any and everything. Now, may we be strung up on a cross with Christ in the end for our faith? Absolutely. But everybody who wants to take a shot at the Christian, at the average Christian, at the average church, is not going to be allowed to just take a shot at us. So we have to own some of that. As tough as that sounds, we have to own some of that. Now, with that being said, Tim Waltz, Amy Klobuchar, Keith Ellison, Ilhan Omar, Tina Smith, the list goes on. The Who's, Angie Craig, Peggy Flanagan. The who's list of far radical left Democrat politicians in the state of Minnesota, we call it the belly of the beast for a reason. And just the other day, we saw Donald Trump say that, not Donald Trump, but Governor Tim Waltz go on a tirade about how easy it is to be a Republican when you can just say the cruelest thing or put on a stupid red hat, as though the mandate given from the entire American populace still, to this day, even in defeat, even in months and months of being able to, assess what went on in the 2024 election, why the people overwhelmingly chose Donald Trump and this far-right MAGA movement. Even still today, Governor Tim Walz doubles down. He doubles down on the crazy. He doubles down and says, these MAGA Americans, these people willing to follow Donald Trump, are dangerous, are crazy, they're stupid. They don't know what the truth is. They don't know what it means to be an American citizen. They don't know what it means to be an American. He doubles down. He doubled down. He triples down. This has become a hallmark of the left. Even today, Senator Amy Klobuchar and all you Republicans out there who thought, Royce is too brash. He uses foul and vulgar language, and he's a little too confrontational for my liking, and decided to vote for Donald Trump and then vote for Amy Klobuchar. All of you get a real dose of reality today. that Senator Amy Klobuchar, who feels much more safe for you, actually got on national television and blamed the shooting of young children during their first week of school in a church, in the pews, on Republicans and the Second Amendment. That's who you all voted for. You voted for these far left-wing politicians. And I say to Amy Klobuchar, I just got off of Newsmax this evening, and I asked the question: if Donald Trump is a reflection of white men and Christians and Republicans and patriots or any number of demographics you could identify. If Donald Trump's shortcomings, his flaws, some of the things that he says or how he says it is a reflection of all of these groups, then is today's shooting of innocent children a reflection of the LGBTQ and transgender movement, ideology, psychology? The Democrat Party, the Minnesota Democratic Party, the liberals, the liberal ideals, the liberal mindset, the progressive mindset. Is today's tragic shooting of children, innocent children, in a church at all a reflection of the left in this country? Again, as soon as a young white man goes into a school and shoots up a school, we all are quick to say, oh, see, these young white men, they're angry, they're hostile, they're crazy, they've been infected by these far right-wing conspiracy theories and the Donald Trump types. And then somehow Donald Trump gets blamed. And then when the transgender, obviously anti-Trump young man goes into a Catholic school and shoots a bunch of children, we still say it's Donald Trump's fault. I mean, this type of dishonesty should discredit these people forever. Imagine the lack of sacred honor you have to go on national television and try and politicize an event that clearly is an indictment of your own political worldview and your own political movement and your own political side of the aisle. Imagine going on national television and trying to gaslight the American people, the citizens, the residents of the state of Minnesota, and the families that are crushed today after losing their child going back to an elementary school. Imagine the lack of sacred honor in trying to gaslight us into believing that this is the fault of Republicans or Donald Trump or even firearms for that matter. And you people are just that awful too. And that's the thing. And I think what you all don't understand is that the longer this goes on, the longer this drags out, the more and more people are going to come to the side of the populist movement. And make no mistake, there is a significant difference between the nationalist populist movement and the socialist populist movement. Although we agree on the prognosis, we staunchly disagree on the remedy, on the solution. And that's part of the reason why the Donald Trump crowd and the Bernie Sanders crowd are having trouble coming together for a genuine populist movement and finally throwing these corrupt elites out. But one of the dividing lines is Christianity. One of the dividing lines is faith. One of the dividing lines is God. And the socialist populist movement, you could make a very strong case. Let's call it what it is. The communist populist movement. And there is a communist populist movement. And the problem with it is the communist populist movement criticizes the rich, they criticize the elite, but more than not, they just hate the elite. And they hate the elite because as demonstrated today by this young man who is clearly politically motivated, he has a strong hatred of himself. And that's another clear distinction between the nationalist populist movement and the socialist populist movement. is that the socialist populist movement, in its Marxism, in its communism, it has a nihilism and a narcissism in it that it has yet to contend with. And for that alone, we cannot have an alliance. Sorry to say. It'd be one thing if the socialist populists, kind of approached it like, hey, if you believe in God, so be it. That's good. So be it. This is America. It's free. You believe in God. That's your business. That isn't how the socialist populist movement of the far left in this country, the progressives, that's not how they approach these things. They have a strong hostility and animosity towards faith writ large. And it's demonstrated today. We see you. We understand. We understand the hostility. That's why I wear the shirt. That's why I was at the fair this week. And as the great Steve Bannon says, these people aren't so tough. And they're not, en masse, on average. And even taking an automatic weapon to a school and shooting and killing, murdering young children, innocent children in cold blood isn't an act of valor. It's not courageous. It's not tough. The same way shooting a CEO there in Midtown Manhattan, the CEO of United Healthcare Group, isn't tough. It's not courageous. It's not an act of valor. It's an act of selfishness. It's an act of hatred and violence. It's an act of intemperance. It's an act of narcissism and nihilism for sure. Courage, not so much. Not so much. See, because it's not courageous to get yourself to the point where you have no more care in your life that it compels you to violence. Don't get me wrong. There are times where violence could be a measure of courage. But as the Christian would say, it would usually be well defined if there is something meaningful that you care about in life that you're willing to die for. That's part of the reason why we give so much respect and honor to our troops and to our law enforcement, because often they die in the act of duty, and in the general sense, despite whatever their individual flaws may be, they have signed up to give their life in service of something greater than themselves: freedom, safety of others that they don't know, complete strangers. This is what made the Christ sacrifice so profound and very different and unique from all other faith practices in the world, is that it's anchored in self-sacrifice. And Christ was willing to give his life for eons of people that he didn't know. In the sense you could say, Christ and God and the great Trinity is, I knew every hair on your head before you were born, so he does know. But you understand what I'm saying. Troubling time in America. Troubling time. Our politics, our culture. Troubling time. It really is. And it can be discouraging on some days. Today is definitely a discouraging day. And we try and find hope in it. We try and we try our hardest, but it's difficult. It's difficult to find any hope and young children. And some of us who are adults, we can still, remember the the we still have those faint memories of being a child, having that sort of carefree approach to the world. You go to school and you're eager to be around the other kids, and every day is an adventure. Every day is its own little adventure. And you go into the school and there are all the great colors and the books and the activities and your friends and recess and all the great things about being a child and having fun in the school. And it's just horrifying to think. I mean, I have 4 children that are still in school, going into high school, going into middle school, so they're getting up there in age. And I'd love to have more, and I wouldn't hesitate to have more out of the fear of what this demonic individual did today. It's a risk we all take. Are more people going to start to homeschool? Absolutely. You're going to see that happen. And there's a lot of logic in doing so. But it's hard to have hope when you think about a young child being shot in a school. It's hard to have hope. But yet we do. I mean, yet we must. We must. We must have courage. As dark as today has been, as dark as the night gets, the sun will come up. It's going to be a long time before these families of Annunciation Catholic school and parish see sunlight and the sunrise in the same manner that they did before today. It's going to be a long time before they're ever whole again, if ever. But for the rest of us, the sun will come up tomorrow. The question is, how many of these types of incidents, how many things are we going to have to see before there's a transformation? And again, I can talk about the Democrats all I want, and I'm going to. I mean, I'm going to continue to bang home on them as best as I can. But I'm here in Minnesota. I'm at the Minnesota State Fair, and people are starting to wake up. I saw a man that came up to me, and he had a T-shirt on, a big red and yellow T-shirt, and it had the faces of Marxism and a progression from Karl Marx and Engels all the way to Mao, Stalin, and then uh, you know uh, there he is, Tim Walz, Governor Tim Walz, belly of the beast. One man's socialism is another man's neighborliness. And that's where we're living. I mean, I live in Minnesota. I mean, I live in the belly of the beast. This place is no joke. This is the political hellhole of the United States of America, rivaled only by California, which, scary enough, gives us people like Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom, who, in some strange timeline, some strange reality, are front runners for president of the United States come 2028. I mean, the whole thing is almost so absurd. I start to wonder, is it even real? And if you're out there and you're wondering if it's real, you remember back to today that there are small elementary school children who lost their life. That's how real it gets. Somewhere, some parent had to get a call to come pick up their child's body. And they're going to have to make arrangements and make a funeral, funeral plans, and bury a child in a very small casket. And none of us should have to experience that. Do children die? Absolutely. Do they get sick? Yes. But to have your child murdered at their school uh, is just absolutely reprehensible. And I'm going to shoot straight at you. And I said this online, and if this makes me unelectable, so be it. But the Catholic warrior in me, the no nonsense sort of, you know, Catholic militant in me, thinks of a scenario where myself and another several or so Christian brothers go to the front door of the state and demand the body of this individual, and that the head of this individual would go up on a pike at the great St. Paul Cathedral. You know, just in my mind. And I would hope that all of you Christians and Catholics out there um, are getting to a place where you're just about fed up. I mean, I know we've been taught to take a lot. We've been taught to turn the other cheek, and we've been taught to you know sort of revel in our own ability to withstand and endure. But I hope that you're just about fed up, that you're ready for, that you're prepared for, that you're uh, uh, you know starting to see where this is headed. This is only the beginning. Honestly, this is only the beginning. Only the beginning. Sad enough, this is only the beginning. Which brings me to another topic that I've been dying to talk about, and I hope that I don't I don't stomp all over and trample all over the tragedy of today to bring up something which seems far less important. But in many ways, the same exact conversation. Um, Nick Fuentes, you know, I hesitate to even talk about it, but it is the same thing. In a sense, there's this conversation that's gaining momentum about race in this country. And I posted a video yesterday of Nick Fuentes going off on a 10-minute rant about black people in the black cities all across this country. And I said, he's right. Whether you like it or not, whether you like him or not, what he's saying in the video is right. And what he's essentially saying in the video is our black communities are out of control. And although he's very critical of Donald Trump and Donald Trump's um, uh, recent decisions with regard to Israel, foreign policy, uh, Donald Trump has taken control of the police in Washington, D.C., and sort of federalized the law enforcement in Washington, D.C., and we have seen a significant drop off of crime and violent crimes, petty crimes and violent crimes in Washington, D.C. in the last 2-3 weeks since this made headlines. I for one, and I just want to say, uh, I am always skeptical of government overreach. I am always skeptical of the forces of tyranny and a police state. I'm always skeptical because, as I said in the last piece, when we talk about the Christian community, the same could be echoed about the American citizenry writ large. Is that we don't really live in a way that our founding fathers intended or articulated in our founding documents. We don't really live in a way where we self-govern, where we have small armed militias in our communities that are ready to defend our communities, defend the people in them, and defend a way of life, defend our values and our freedoms. We don't really live like that. We've abnegated much of that and given over to the state. We've subsidized it, and then we've outsourced all of that security and that sense of citizenship, that sense of grounding over to the government, especially the Republican Party. I remember being back on Jason Whitlock and saying one of the biggest criticisms I have of the Republican Party is the Patriot Act, and that Muslims, were used to justify the Patriot Act, which is a clear infringement on our constitutional rights and privacy, and we did so under the guise of security, national security, homeland security. And we said, hey, we're so afraid of Muslims, we feel so unequipped to handle the dangers of radical Islam and terrorism that we are willing to outsource all of our security and freedom to a government that we certainly shouldn't trust. So, I've been hypercritical and vigilant and warning of overreach from the federal government and a police state. But with that being said, you niggas are out of control. Point blank, period. Niggas are out of control. Let me repeat it. You niggas, and I can say that for all the white folks in the audience who are like, every time the word nigga gets thrown around, you get squeamish. I can say it. I come from a neighborhood where there were drugs sold, there were gangs, and people got shot and killed, sometimes over drugs and gangs, sometimes over some girl who's, created two jealous men or two jealous men that want one girl or whatever the case may be. I come from a neighborhood where that type of thing went on. And it's been that way since the 90s, but it's gotten progressively worse. And I remember back in the 90s listening to rap music and whatnot, and you'd go to the barbershop and there'd be the old head, the guy who was about 40 or 50 and came from the 60s and 70s and that solid gold soul era of American black music and Motown and whatnot. And they'd hear that rap music and they'd say, man, that's not no real music. That ain't real music. All that music's talking about is killing each other. And then I remember conservatives and Christians saying, hey, man, that rap music's going to destroy the fabric of this country. And before you know it, the reporting of crime in the black communities is going to turn into or morph into a promotion of crime writ large. And all of a sudden you'll have communities, cities all across this country where crime is completely out of control for younger and younger Americans. And that's exactly what's happened. See, and again, I'll say it, I'll repeat it. Niggas are out of control in this country. Not all. It's the same as when I said women have gotten mouthy. Do I mean all women have gotten mouthy? No. It's just like saying, Americans are on drugs. Are all Americans on drugs? Well, increasingly, a lot of Americans are on drugs, but are all Americans on drugs? No, not all Americans are on drugs. But I should be able to say Americans are on drugs because those who are American. Just like I should be able to say women have gotten mouthy. I should be able to use the word women because those women who are mouthy and flippant and kind of have that same manic narcissism going on, they are women, and it's okay to call them women. The same thing goes for black people. And in our community, we call each other niggas, so I'm going to use the word nigga here. Niggas are out of control. And you all know, all you niggas out there in the audience know that. This isn't a shocking development. This isn't a surprise. It's not a surprise to say black communities are out of control. And, again, I warned you all back in 2020 when George Floyd died. I said, absolutely. Would the ideal situation be to self-govern? That's the way our founding fathers intended it to be. Would an ideal situation for us to be able to, improve our communities, make black communities somewhere that black people actually want to live? Absolutely. But in order to do that, you have to understand the institutions that govern over you. And even more importantly, you have to understand the bullshit you're selling yourself that allows our communities to continue in this cycle of turmoil and violence. And we're unwilling to do that. It's almost sort of sick and demonic to allow white liberals to tell us that the turmoil in our communities is solely the product of our history and not our current choices. I mean, imagine giving a gun to a young man. Imagine having a young black man and you strip his home of the father because, all men are useless, according to the modern feminist movement, which does lead the institutions in the education system, by the way. Imagine taking a young black man and you strip him of his father, so you break his home. You put the government in place as the father, which never gets anything right, especially parenting, also indicated by how horrific the public school system is. And then you say, young man, you're full of anger and hatred, and we're going to throw gasoline on that fire by telling you that you are a victim of your history, and then use that history to justify all of his bad behavior. Justify the behavior that almost certainly is going to destroy his life from the inside out. Even if he doesn't end up in a jail cell for the rest of his life or dead, and somehow his crimes go unpunished, his crimes go unconvicted, he has to live with the darkness in his own soul from having perpetrated those crimes against another human being. There is something truly sick and twisted about that cycle and about those who promote that cycle of violence in our black communities. And I say it with all due respect. Niggas are out of control. And you can say Nick Fuentes is a white supremacist. oh, he's a racist. He's spewing anti-black rhetoric. You niggas are spewing anti-black rhetoric. All you do is talk about shooting each other. All you do is talk about shooting each other and backstabbing each other and taking somebody's girl, as if there's not enough women out here for everybody. I mean, you got to have somebody else's woman, right? And you know, these things aren't unrelated. I mean, they may seem unrelated, but they're not unrelated. We're talking about the decay of American society. And see, there's this issue of time that we have to contend with. It's because at the same time you see all of these great advancements of society, mostly technological, you also see the decline of culture. And see, the internet is a great example of that. Never before have you been more connected to the rest of the world than you are right now, yet we all seem so and feel so disconnected in here, especially in the black community. Oh, we got black people that can't read or write, but they're on social media. We got black folks who can't read or write, but they can use their voice notes to put comments on videos of beef between other black rappers. You understand? And somehow we put our head down on the pillow at night and we convince ourselves that this is an honorable or reasonable or prosperous way to live. And I get it. It's convenient. It's convenient to go, the welfare is good. The victim narrative is good, it's good. It's good. We're on the take. We're on the money train. We're on the gravy train. Life is good. We ain't got no consequences. Everything's good. You know, we get to live in this sort of demonic trance where we go to work, we work harder than we really should for money that is shit, really. And then we justify that by going, hey, but I got enough to go out this weekend and pretend like I'm big time, pretend like I'm cooler than I really am. And to be quite honest, a lot of you fucking people don't look cool. I'm just being real with you. I'm not your father, but let me be your uncle. Let me be your uncle, okay? Uh, you're not that fucking cool. I tell my young basketball players all the time, and a lot of these young athletes got a similar thing going on, crisis, self-image, where it's all about how cool I am. You're not fucking cool. You don't get any style points for being fucking cool. In fact, you think you look cool, but you don't look cool. That's the great gaffe in the whole thing. You don't look cool. You're not cool. You're not cool with your fucking cell phone selfie in the mirror, and you got I don't know what it is, toothpaste or water stains or boogers on the mirror, right? And your cell phone selfie, your pants are hanging off your ass. You don't look cool. Only in your head have you convinced yourself that you look cool. And I'm saying this out of love. I'm saying this out of love. Same way Kanye West told you all, the reason black people are so obsessed with brands is because they don't own land. And I don't think that statement gets enough credit. The profound, deep insight of that statement alone should be plastered on the school walls of every young black person's education environment all across the country. You're obsessed with brands because you don't own land, and you don't understand that owning land builds an intrinsic value. It builds a sort of self-worth, a sort of perpetual reason for living in a community, in a family. We don't have that. And so we find 10-year-old kids jacking cars in Minneapolis. I just saw a story, 2 nights ago. I'm not sure if it was recent or if it, on social media, you come across news stories that may be from 6 weeks back, maybe from a year back. I'm not sure, but there was a 10-year-old who stole a car, and reportedly the cops have had like 30 contacts with this 10-year-old kid. What fucking 10-year-old is out there stealing cars? I mean, for the love of God. When my son was 10, when little Royce was 10, he still had dinosaurs in his room. And that's how it should be. A 10-year-old kid, I mean, a 10-year-old kid jacking a car is almost as tragic as a young kid being killed in his school. The level of decadence, what it says about the condition of our society is tragic. It is actually that tragic because you know where that kid's headed. You know where that kid's headed. There, you're 10 years old, and what are we gonna say? That that's not a product of the culture? That there's not something wrong with our families, with our communities? You're gonna say, oh, well, it's not all black people. It doesn't describe all black people. They said to me online, well, Nick Fuentes is wrong because he's making a comment about all black people. And if and when he makes a comment about all black people, he is wrong, and he knows he's wrong. And I would, venture to guess he's saying it for effect. Just like when I say these liberal white women are crazy, I don't really mean all liberal white women are crazy. Part of it is I'm saying it for effect. Part of it is a large and identifiable group of liberal white women are crazy. And just like Nick Fuentes said in the video that I posted, we're rooting for you. And I appreciate Nick saying that. He said in the video, he said, hey, black people, I'm rooting for you. I hope you figure it out. And I say the same thing about liberal white women. I hope you figure it out for all of our sake. But nobody means all. But we do. And let's just go back to niggas, okay? We have to deal. Let's just say all of your theories are correct. Let's just say your narrative about history is accurate. Let's just grant that for argument's sake. Let's say that the large or some vast majority of the black experience in America is the byproduct of slavery, of exploitation, of racism and white supremacy, a Eurocentric worldview, as your academics would say. Let's just grant that all of that is true. In what world is an acceptable outcome what you see in Chicago? I mean, let's just say it's all real. Let's just say it's all true. I'm not saying that, first of all, because I'd argue a bunch of it, but let's just grant it for argument's sake so we can get that out of the way. Let's just say everything you believe about the exploitation and misrepresentation, manipulation of black people is accurate. In what world is the result we're getting in these black communities across the country acceptable? See, because at some point, and again, this is why it's so important that young black men are involved in sports. And for all you single black mothers out there, I pray that you have the wisdom, and a lot of you do, because a lot of young black single mothers try desperately to get their young men in sports so they can, and they recognize that their sons need a male figure in their life. And I know because I coach young men. So I hear it not only from my own team, because most of them have their fathers in their life, which says something, but from kids that play on multiple teams. So young single mothers recognize that they need a male figure. I pray that you find a sport or some type of activity with a male figure like myself to help influence your kid. Because again, athletics and sports really, I can't stress the corollaries between being an athlete and what the crisis is of the black community. Because in sports, you can come up with all the fucking excuses you want. You can come up with excuse after excuse after excuse. And at the end of the day, when that fucking game starts and you're toe-to-toe with your opponent, if you haven't put the work in, if you haven't put the time in, if you haven't put the energy, if you don't know how to focus, if you don't know how to compete, if you don't want to win bad enough, no excuse is going to protect you. No excuse is going to save you. Nobody is going to save you. Your ancestors ain't going to show up and save you. They're not going to save you. That's just the reality. The athletes, we understand this. Coaches, we understand this. And we athletes and we have to be the first to break from this victim narrative because it's completely in opposition of what we preach on a daily basis. This is one of those intellectual schisms of American culture. In the black community, we love our sports and we worship these athletes, but everything that made these athletes great is the exact opposite of what we promote in our culture writ large. In our culture writ large, we want to say the condition of the black community is always somebody else's fault. But in sports, in order to be successful, in order to excel, you have to take the responsibility first. Always. And all those other things may be true. You may play on a bad team, and your teammates aren't that skilled, and your coach isn't that good, and the refs may be terrible. And a lot of referees are bad, increasingly, because there aren't enough, and they're not trained well enough, and they're not paid well enough. So you get some pretty bad referees out there on the road in your AAU games. Okay, so even high school, even college. Hell, some of the refereeing I see in the NBA is horrifying, but. All that being said, the reason why you lost the game is because you weren't good enough when the moment came. You didn't work hard enough. You weren't focused enough. It didn't matter enough. You didn't want to win bad enough, and that's usually the issue. That's usually most of the issue. You didn't want it bad enough. Because if you wanted it bad enough, you would have worked harder, you would have focused more, you would have put in the time, and you would have given the energy, and you would have competed harder. But you didn't. And then, all that being said, sometimes you work hard, you compete, you put the time in, and you still lose. But usually in those moments, like when you lose, having given it all you got, you don't think to criticize the refs. Nobody thinks to criticize the refs. When you see a great game between two teams or a great competition between two athletes, like let's say a mixed martial arts fight, for example, and it goes the full 5 rounds and both guys are just banging away and it's back and forth and back and forth. At the end of the fight, it doesn't even matter who won in some sense. Not to say we're given a participation medal, but there's a respect that's given between those fighters because both of them know how much they put in and how much they left in the ring or in the octagon or wherever it is. And the people who are watching, they see, they appreciate what the athletes gave. In those moments, there is no excuses. There are no excuses. There's just appreciation. That's what should have come from our black communities. That's what would have been, that's the sacred honor that, and all of you are responsible. I'm sorry to tell you. See, I wasn't involved in the music business. I wasn't involved in the movie business. I wasn't involved in some of these cultural institutions that fed off of the plight of black folks, that helped feed poison into the community of black folks. I wasn't involved in those things. In fact, the one institution, the NBA, that I think helps perpetuate a lot of the madness in our black communities, I pulled back from. I fought against. I exhibited that self-sacrifice that Christ demonstrated by saying, there's something wrong with this. There is something wrong with this institution. There is something wrong with our culture. There's something wrong with the way black people perceive and prioritize professional sports and basketball. There is a schism between what we say we love about the athlete, our relationship with the business, and our culture there at home. Something's not right. And it's still not right to this day. That's why you got these young, talented, more skilled than ever basketball players coming to the games, and they're dressed like, high fashion. I don't know. It doesn't look that fashionable to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not cool enough to wear super bell bottoms and weird glasses and dresses and shit. I don't know. If you want to be a homosexual, fine. That's your business. That's your right in your home as an American citizen. As a human being, pretty much anywhere in the world, at least places that is outlawed, but that's not America. You want to be a homosexual, fine. But, why is every time you show up to the arena a photo shoot? And the scary part is you think you look cool. I just look at it and go, this guy actually woke up this morning and put that outfit on, and his whole day kind of revolved around this moment where he knew he was going to walk into a staged setting where he was going to have his picture taken. That's that narcissism. That's that sort of clinical narcissism that is pervading the entire American culture. And there's a reason why the viewership of sports, not necessarily the games, but engagement with sports related content is at an all-time high. There's a reason why. Because there's a part of all of us that craves that celebrity, right? Yet our black communities are out of fucking control. Out of control. And you're going to tell me that Donald Trump is a racist for sending the National Guard in? I think, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, I think you niggas had your brains fried over the last 3 decades when the National Guard has been inappropriately deployed to the Middle East theater and everywhere else all around the world. So you've seemed to have forgotten the fundamental function of the National Guard is not to be deployed for military industrial complex ventures and conquests. It's for a national crisis. That's what the National Guard is there for. A hurricane, a volcano, a landslide, an earthquake, a breakout of a virus or whatever the case may be, an epidemic. Floods, power outages, massive power outages, or in the worst case, civil unrest, anarchy. Yeah, right. In the National Guard, the use of the National Guard for anarchy is completely reasonable. It blows my mind that our idea of American citizenship is so warped. We sat by for 30 years and applauded when the National Guard gets deployed to Yemen, but we don't want it deployed in Chicago. And I hate myself. I'm an Uncle Tom. I'm a self-hating black person, but I'd much rather have the resources, the time, the energy, the money, our money, deployed in the city of Chicago to help protect the other black people in Chicago from the young fucking lunatics that we didn't parent properly, instead of sending our National Guard to fucking Yemen to tell some Yemeni citizen that they should embrace LGBTQ academia. This is how far we've gotten, guys. Again, I'll say it real slow. And I'm saying it because some of you, I'm not talking to the white liberals. I'm talking to niggas. Some of you niggas are so brainwashed by this liberal academic ideology. You are actually in acceptance. Don't tell me, no, I don't agree with that either. No, you're in a sort of systemic acceptance by party, by political party affiliation. You are in a systemic acceptance of sending our young men and women, our tax money, to Yemen to have the National Guard secure our national interests so we can teach Arabs LGBTQ academia, rather than in the city of Chicago where your own people are getting shot and fucking killed every day. Oh, Royce, don't say fuck. You won't get elected. You won't win anybody over. Well, I mean, I'm kind of like Nick Fuentes in that at a certain level, there's no nice way to say some things. I mean, what I just laid out for you is it's so wild to me. It's so perplexing. I start to wonder, am I living in a simulation? Like, is this some type of strange, simulation I'm living in? Where black people agree to this en masse? We accept this? We've normalized this? You don't want the National Guard. And what's funny about it is it's not all black people. I was standing at the State Fair at my booth, and I had a black man walk up, and, it's not everybody's tall. This guy happened to be tall, and he walks up to me, and he's like, Royce White. Speak your piece, man. You keep saying what you need to say. You speak your mind. People got their opinions. You got yours. I respect that you speak your mind and you stand on that. And he got real close to me and he said, and I'm from D.C. originally. I grew up there. I was born and raised in D.C. And I was just there about a week ago. And I found myself thinking, this is kind of nice. And he's not the only one. I posted a video of a young man online that was a recent gunshot victim in D.C. And he literally said, if you're not from D.C., don't talk about D.C. The shit is wild in D.C. We need to clean this shit up. And if you're in Chicago, you should be thinking the same way. I guarantee. You know what's funny about it? I guarantee a lot of the young gang members that have even found themselves in this convoluted circumstance of life where they feel that they're in this sort of, territorial war with other young black men their own age a block away, right? I'm from 63rd. I'm from 64th. I mean, what kind of sick, twisted cycle of violence are you putting yourself in? That's like kamikaze shit. I mean, at least the smart criminal is going to say, I'm not going to get in a beef or a war with somebody right next to me because, I got to live here. That's kind of putting myself, that's a sign of self-hatred. If I'm going to get into a beef where there's going to be violence, I'm at least going to get into a beef or violence with somebody who I can get away from sometimes, not somebody who I have to see every fucking day. At that level, it's kind of a twisted, sick, sadistic kind of romance. And that's why you look online, this is really, really perverted, sign. See, because I'm actually from the neighborhood. And I'm actually in tune with black culture. So I can speak to some of these things that your average political pundit won't really talk about. But there is this very perverse occurrence in the black gang culture where you get young black gang members now who talk to each other on FaceTime. Yeah, we FaceTime each other. It's a little homoerotic, I'm going to say. It's dangerous. This is the most dangerous game, but there's a little homoeroticism to it. It's like, I want to kill you, but let's get on FaceTime and kind of flirt with each other back and forth until the next time we shoot at one another. Again, to hearken all the way back to the beginning in the shooting at Annunciation School, you're starting to see the line here, the correlation of the decay of society and that clinical narcissism. Why are you on FaceTime with somebody who you're in a gang beef with? You're shooting at each other every time you see each other, and you're calling each other on the phone? What is that about? See, but these are the sick and twisted things that they don't talk about on MSNBC. Or when they do, they kind of hang their nose and, kind of have to, and in a shocking turn of events, a young man called his enemies right before he shot him, but it's still white people's fault. It's like, yeah, it's white liberals, white Democrats' fault. If we're going to blame white people for the conditions of black communities all across the country, you got to blame the Democrats. They've been in charge. Categorically, this isn't an opinion or conjecture. You say it and Democrats go, well, what? No, Republicans all race or white supremacy. No. I come from Minneapolis and St. Paul. The Democrats have been in charge of Minneapolis and St. Paul since the 70s. And the same is true of every black community all across the country. Now, you could say that the Republican Party has often played controlled opposition and aided and abetted in the destruction of black communities so they could use it as a talking point to sell advertisement, viewership, donation dollars, political campaigns, political domination and control of the center-right of American politics. Fox News, for example, the Rupert Murdochs, who don't like Donald Trump and the America First movement, who hate to see Donald Trump send the National Guard in, but they can't really push back because they've built an entire platform on talking about the crime in black communities. And now Donald Trump pulled their card. They said, Donald Trump, that man is very, very smart and tactical. I love it. Trump 2028. Oh, I love it. He said, you Fox News rhinos don't like me, huh? Well, I'm going to pull on the thread that you've used to build this platform for 30 odd some years, and I'm going to see you push back on that, and none of them can. They want to. You can just feel it on the Fox. They want to Donald Trump, but they can't because that's their entire platform. So you could argue that there's been some controlled opposition Republican Party involvement in the destruction of black communities with good reason. That there's plenty of blame to go around there. But categorically speaking, the Democrat Party has represented you, niggas, your representation. See, I'm not so concerned with what their lawyer says. My lawyer. I have to be looking over what my lawyer's going to say, what my representation is doing and how they're handling the case, how they're on the case. And how have they been on the case? I mean, let's just talk about it for real. They've been laying down on the job. In fact, you could argue that they've intentionally destroyed black communities. They like it like this. Because as long as black people will concede the narrative that this is about racism and white supremacy, it benefits them. It benefits the Democrats. It benefits the liberals. It benefits Rachel Maddow. Look at what happened even today. The same narrative that's used about the school Annunciation is the same narrative that's used about black communities. There is the connecting tissue. There's the connective tissue to the great tragedy we saw this morning at the Catholic Church and the chaos and violence we see in black communities. The connective tissue is the Democrat liberal establishment uses the exact same excuse. All about gun control. Oh, man, these Marxists and communists want to take our guns so bad every time every time something happens, it's all about the guns. They're not even slick about it. They don't even hit you with something else just to throw you off the scent. It's every single time like clockwork. Oh, the gun control. Excuse me? Not, hey, you know what? There's something wrong with the culture in black communities. Because, to be quite frank, all of the guns aren't in black communities. There's a great portion of the guns in this country that aren't in black communities. And other communities seem to be doing a little bit better with guns than we do. A lot better with the guns than we do. Don't get me wrong. You'll get your occasional white man who shoots his wife, then shoots himself. Hell, there's stories of, white men shooting their whole family and then kill themselves. It's out there. But not nearly at the rate. And don't even try and pretend. I mean, come on, guys. What are we doing? What good does pretending do? It may make you feel uncomfortable, but that makes you a coward. If you're willing to lie about the circumstance of the community that you live in for your own appeasement of your own, your own psyche, you're a fraud. You're a coward. If you're willing to peddle a liberal narrative about the crisis in the black community for your own emotional appeasement, you're a fucking coward. And that's why I got no problem saying what Nick Fuentes said in the clip is right. Black communities are out of control. Black people are out of control. And yeah, he said black people. Does that mean all black people? Of course not. It's ridiculous. Don't be that sensitive and that's corny. That's soft. That is cowardly. Oh, he's describing all black people. No, we're not. Nobody is. Nobody talks like that. And don't act like when black people aren't in private, we don't say white people this, white people that. We do. And we know we don't mean all white people. Because some of you brothers love you some white women. And some of you sisters love you some white men. And all of you buy Balenciaga. All of you buy European white designer clothes. So all of you really want to be like white people, quiet as kept. And you even talk like white folks when you get the chance. When you go to your job during the day, you put on your white accent. Hell, I was even brought up in, even as an athlete, you kind of learn, talk proper when you're in your post-game interviews as an athlete. It's considered professional. It's like, no, just telling the truth and talking honest is what should be considered professional. But black people, we love to imitate white folks. Look at Barack Obama. You just say Barack Obama, that's an intellectual black man. He's so smart. Is he? Is he, or does he talk like a liberal white woman? Because I kind of think he talks like a liberal white woman. And I'm not saying this to be divisive. I'm just saying, why can't we be honest about what's going on in the black community? You all would really have a problem with the National Guard being deployed to Chicago to clean up the gang violence there? What does that say about how you feel? What does that say about how you feel for black people? I think it says you don't care about black people at all. You're more interested, you're more invested in the narrative, you're more invested in your own emotional appeasement, you're more invested in the victim mentality and all of the spoils that come with it, even if they're few and far between, even if they're just shekels and wooden nickels. You're more interested in the narrative than you are any real results, and you want us all to play along? I'm supposed to play along? Nick Fuentes is supposed to play along? He's just saying what it is. And see, here's the other thing. Let's just say you're right. Let's just say Nick Fuentes is a raging white supremacist, along with Donald Trump and Steve Bannon and all these other people who they say are racist and white supremacists. Let's just grant that they are, for argument's sake. It's still on you. It's still your responsibility in some sense not to live up to that way of thinking, to that racism, if you're really saying that they're racist. See, but part of whether or not somebody is racist has to do with the results of your actions. And you can argue about it all you want to. You cannot like it. You can say, well, just because one black person gets into a fucking Uber with a white woman who's the mother of 4 children and takes her on a carjack ride until he executes her, shoots her in the back of the head for no apparent reason whatsoever. You can say that that doesn't represent all black people, but like your mama told you when you left the house as a kid, when you leave the house, you are a representation of me. That's why your mama and your grandmama and your grandpappy and your granddad and your dad and your uncles and them and everybody else, even the lady at the church who you weren't related to, sees you acting a fool out in public. They tell you you were raised better than that. And you know what's scary about it? As much as the white conservative media wants to talk about how black folks are raised, the truth of the matter is a lot of black people are raised better than the way that they act. Now, you want to talk about racism. You want to talk about the case for racism. I'll make a case for racism that's way better than Nick Fuentes ever could. Let's talk about how some of you niggas come from 2-parent households where you had it fucking good, and for some reason you still find it necessary to act like it's cool by being a goddamn hooligan. Let's talk about that. See, and what you don't, the reason I bring it up, again, this is out of love, not to be disrespectful or insulting, but I'm just trying to tell you, whether you like it or not, the way that you behave is a reflection of black people. Imagine us as a black community, the black culture. Imagine every time one of us is successful, we hold that person up and say, look at this excellence. But it doesn't apply when we do bad things. It doesn't apply when we fail. So the association of our skin color is only applicable when we succeed. There again is that narcissism. There's that detachment from reality. There's that my narrative is just one that I can create devoid of all facts and reality. that I can just create a reality where the yin doesn't have a yang, where the positive doesn't have a negative, where the cause doesn't have an effect, where there's no balance. And when there's no balance, that's why the black community is in ruin. Because the people that tried to give you balance, you selected away from them. You didn't want them. It was too hard. The discipline, the rigor, the intellectual rigor, the study, the scholarship, it was too difficult. It's easy. And a lot of you niggas walking around here, touting your degrees. I graduated summa cum laude from liberal university. And you probably got some bullshit degree in marketing or social sciences or a minor in African American studies, where your thesis was how the systemic roadblocks for black people are as such. Boo fucking who? Give me a fucking break. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing novel. There's nothing intellectual about parroting the same narrative they've been using on you since the 1970s to steal your tax money. And social programs, people are going to lose social programs. The social programs have not worked. They just haven't worked. Don't tell me we need more. Don't tell me they weren't done right. Don't tell me the Republicans fought and that's the fault the programs and that's why they weren't effective. They weren't effective because they're not effective. And part of the reason they're not effective, quiet as it's kept, part of the reason they're not effective is because you niggas are out of control. And no matter how many social programs you give a nigga that's out of control, a nigga's still going to be out of control. Man, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real, y'all. Let's just keep it real. You wonder, well, what is this? How do you connect this to? Listen, I say this and I say this as genuine as I possibly can. There is a time limit on everything. There is a time limit on everything. In the same way that you anti-Christian, anti-American leftists think that the Christian community is going to sit by and allow our Christian brothers and sisters to be openly attacked time and time again, there's a limit on everything. And that limit is drawn near. And I say that and I encourage, that limit is drawn near, where Christians are getting just about fed up of being the target of this insane anti-American rhetoric, this insane anti-American, anti-Christian ideology. We're just about fed up. That's why you see a roaring, a rise, a soar of the numbers of Catholic converts. The people are just about fed up. And they see the failure in the logic. But the same thing goes for the black community. Conversely, the same thing goes for the black community. In theory, would it be great if we could govern ourselves? Yes. Would it be great if we could police our own communities? Absolutely. But you have not shown the ability to do that. And the question is, how long do you think you get? That's the scary part. How long do you think? That's part of that narcissism. We were enslaved for 400 years, so maybe we should get 400 to figure it out. Nobody has to wait on you to figure it out. You better understand, and I say this to black people as honestly as I can, as heartfelt as I can. You have to understand that the history of human civilization is much, much bigger than the American black person, the American black man. Let's use myself as an example. The history of human civilization is much, and don't ever let anybody convince you that the universe revolves, and I see a lot of that happening too. A lot of this, black-centric ideology, like black people are the center of the universe. We were the first people and blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. Well, we're the original Jews, and okay, maybe you are. Ethiopia, the great Haile Selassie. There's some history in there that's been forgotten, maybe intentionally misplaced. I'm not saying there's not, but the point of the matter is the world doesn't revolve around you. And in thinking that it does, maybe that's how we got to the situation that we're in Black America. The world doesn't revolve around us. There are plenty of cultures. There are plenty of civilizations. There are plenty groups of people that can be named. There are plenty groups of people that never had a name, that don't have a place in history. Why? Because they were lost to the Chernow House history. Why? Because they did not do the things necessary to propel themselves in society. At some point, they weren't honest with themselves. At some point, they didn't see the danger on the horizon. At some point, they didn't see the danger over the next hill. They were blind to it. They were probably blinded by their own inhibitions. And that's what we seem to be doing right here, right now. The world doesn't revolve around us. We're not guaranteed a place in history. We're not guaranteed a place in America. We're not guaranteed a place in civilization. Look at the Ottoman Empire. Look at the Persian Empire. Look at the Roman Empire. Look at the British Empire. Look at the Mongol Empire. Look at the Mali Empire. And all the other subcultures and things across the breadth of history that no longer exist. You hear about them, they're a footnote. Black people in America could certainly become a footnote in eternity. Hell, we could become a footnote in short history if we're not careful. And as quiet as it kept, you're well on your way. See, because when the technology gets good enough and they start making organic babies, I'm talking about putting a sperm cell and an egg together in a petri dish in a lab owned by a corporation. Do you think they're going to be black babies? Do you think the same white liberals or those same white progressives that claim to care about you so much that they put Planned Parenthood on every corner in your neighborhood? I'm exaggerating, but do you think those same white liberals are going to prioritize the manufacturing of non-natural organic human beings? Ask yourself that question. I mean, really, ask yourself. You better contend with it. You don't have to. You can act like it's like it's a conspiracy theory if you want to, but it's already begun. See, that's the thing. You spend so much time watching videos about the gang violence in Chirac. I can't tell you how shocked I was to find the viewership in a sort of cult-like following of YouTube videos that are documenting, in some sense, documenting the ongoing gang violence and gang beefs in Chicago and the rappers that come from them. King Von and this person and that person and this person shot that person and then this and this gang is, and there's like millions of views and thousands of comments and people are like invested in it like it's a form of reality TV. And what's so sad about it is I think the people in Chicago, the young people in Chicago are so devoid of meaning and sacred honor and a sense of self-love and confidence. I mean, real confidence. That they would rather be the figment of somebody's imagination versus being the master of their own universe. Because nobody who's the master of their own universe would be a walking, talking circus monkey in somebody else's online reality TV. Nobody with any real self-respect, self-love would be the circus monkey, the dancing dummy, and somebody else's vicarious life, into gang violence. That's where our black community is. We are the figment. We are the figment of America's imagination, America's desire to have some strange vicarious connection with gang violence. And it's kind of a self-guilt and a self-loathing in that white people, for some strange reason, like they want the plight of black people. They want the plight of the hood. That's why they move into it. You see now all these gentrifications, all the gentrification people, and you see all these yuppie white liberals, move from the art district into the ghetto. It's like, why did you move here? What are you doing? We're here to save you all, We're here to get robbed, but not call the police, because that's how much we realize that black people have been placed in this position. It's like, if you don't get your dumb ass out of this neighborhood, you about to get shot. What are you doing? Get your ass out of this neighborhood after 11 p.m. What are you walking around in this neighborhood for? Are you retarded? No, don't say retarded. That's retarded. It was 3 shootings here in the last 86 hours. What the hell are you doing out past 11 o'clock? You don't get any points for living in a dangerous neighborhood, surviving it, or getting robbed or beat up or mugged and not calling the police. And I'm not talking about a not snitching culture. I'm talking about white liberal yuppie, sort of art quarter, vegans, right? And they come and they live in the neighborhood and they're like, yeah, I got robbed, but he's just a troubled black man. I'm just glad I got out of there with my life. What? Call the police. The rest of us need you to call the police. Call the police on these people. That's the point I'm making. We love that Donald Trump sent the National Guard to D.C. And let Chicago be next. And Minneapolis, too, if necessary. No problem. No complaints from me. No complaints from me. No complaints from a lot of the black people. They may even complain on the face of it, but deep down, they will enjoy the fruits of not having violent neighborhoods. As violent. And there is, to every side of the coin, there's a flip side. There's a flip side to this coin. The flip side of this coin is our American founding fathers intended for you to be your first line of defense. And that goes for white folks in the suburbs, white folks in rural America, black folks and white folks down in the inner city of the metropolitan area. You are supposed to be your first line of defense. And let me be very clear so that everybody understands. Where I would disagree with Nick Fuentes is that in the final analysis, the answer is not for a sort of separatist society, because there's no running from reality. The answer is not more police in the final analysis. In the short term, sure. But in the final analysis, the answer is all of you American citizens have abnegated your personal freedom and security. That's why Donald Trump has to step in and send in the National Guard to help you, because you seem helpless. If you had listened to Malcolm, when Malcolm said, where the rifle clubs at? Why don't we have any rifle clubs? Where are the small, well-armed militias? And we don't mean gangs. We mean law-abiding, small-armed, well-armed militias. Law-abiding, well-armed militias. Where are they? All across the country. They don't exist. The only people who carry guns are the criminals. It's just like Mexico. It's like anywhere in the free world now, in the modern world. Everybody's too busy to worry about their security, so they outsource it to their government. And with that, they give up some freedoms and some rights. And this is where the narrative, as much as I say, you niggas are out of control, what you Republicans and conservatives have to understand is in the final analysis, in the final play, the crime of the inner cities will be used to justify martial law. They will be. They will be, whether it's black people or it's some foreign invader or it's some pandemic or whatever the case may be. It's chaos and violence and civil unrest that will be used to justify martial law for tyrannical government. That's not what Donald Trump is doing. Come on, give me a break. That's what Governor Tim Walz was doing. That's what Joe Biden, those guys were doing. That's what the security state was ramping up for, and they still have that plan in their back pocket. Don't think for a second that if this transfer of power happens back to the Democrats, we allow them to cheat us in 26 and 28, and they get control of the government again, that they won't reinitiate the plan to create civil unrest so they can justify martial law. Don't you ever think for a second the invasion of this country was solely to win elections. I told you guys this before. I said it before. No authoritarian and tyrannical regime wants to rule over ashes. They may use fire and brimstone to execute their political agenda, but they don't want to rule over ashes. Nobody wants to rule over a heap of ashes. They want to use the chaos and the violence as a pretext to get the consent of the people to bring about martial law. That's why they let 15 million illegal immigrants into the country. They knew it would overwhelm the system. They knew that crime would rise. They knew that drug use would get out of control. They were going to sit back and watch it from their ivory tower, from their gated communities, until it reached a point where American citizens, both Republican and Democrat, begged for tyranny and martial law. And we still have to be vigilant about that today. But that's not what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump is saying in Chicago, this shit has been out of control for far too long, and we're going to clean it up. We're going to clean it up so that it isn't used as a pretext for martial law in the future. And it's sad that he even has to do that, because honestly, if we in the black community, if we black people had any sacred honor left whatsoever, we would see it as our duty to not be a justification for martial law. That would be a tribute to our ancestors. That would be a tribute to our history of slavery and racism and all the other things that black people have faced in this country. That would be sacred honor. We aren't good. If however this goes down, however the future unfolds, we will not allow our debauchery and ignorance and hatred for one another to be used as a justification to strip the rights that we fought so hard to get. That's loving black people. That what I just said, you take it to the bank, that's loving black people. That's having some pride. We're not going to let our ignorance and our decadence and our sheer hatred and disregard for one another be used as the justification to strip the very rights that we say we fought so hard to get in this country. That would be a tragedy. Again, if black people are going to hold up the best of us when we have success, then you have to take responsibility when we fail. You have to take responsibility for what's happened to the black communities all across this country. I don't want to hear this racism, white supremacy bullshit. And I don't care who the truth comes from. If you can't separate the messenger and the message, you already have some real work to do. I don't care if it's Nick Fuentes, if it's Donald Trump, if it's Steve Bannon, if it's Alex Jones, if it's whoever, if it's Charleston White, or who you pick somebody. It doesn't matter who the messenger is. If the message is true, the message is true. That's not a wholesale endorsement of that person and everything they say. Just like when we say black people are fucking up, we don't mean all black people. When I say the feminists, I don't mean all women. When I say we're at a war with the CCP, I don't mean all Chinese or all Asians. These are linguistical propaganda games they play to get you off of the scent of the topic at hand. Semantics is what it is. We don't need to play semantics. Let's just be real. If you live in Chicago, you know the shit's out of control. If you live in Minneapolis, you know the shit's out of control. Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, Miami, D.C., Baltimore, New York City, Philly, Detroit, St. Louis. The list goes on and on and on. Memphis. We don't have to. New Orleans. I mean, what are you going to say? These aren't black people? Black people don't live here? It's not black people doing it? Or you're going to say, oh, well, other people do crime too. Come on now. Come on now. That's a cop-out. Seriously, that's just a cop-out. That's like saying, oh, well, are you a pedophile? Well, other people are pedophiles too. Huh? What? What'd you just say? Well, it's the same thought process. So there's an excuse. There's a justification. There's no justification for what this country's become and what black people have become in this country. There's no justification for it whatsoever. And we better get it in order because, like I said, the real danger around the greatest advice I could give to my fellow black Americans is you're not promised a place in history. You're not promised to survive the Chernow House of history. And that's part of that sense of entitlement right there that the white liberals have given black folks by teaching them, the transatlantic slave trade every year during February, right? It's a sense of entitlement, like we're entitled to a place in history. You're not entitled to a place in history. It's like I tell my young players all the time. It's not what people think. It's not what people say about you as a player. It's only about what you do. It's not about what people say or what they think. It's about what you do. Oh, your mommy, daddy, they think I'm pretty good. My friends think I'm pretty good. My girlfriend thinks I'm pretty good. It's not about what anybody thinks or what they say. It's about what you do, how you play. It's the same thing for us as a community. It's not about what history says happened to us. It's about how we act, how we behave, what we produce, what results come from our community. And right now, it is a damn shame. It's a crying shame. Don't act like you're comfortable living around other black people. The whole narrative of black excellence, unfortunately, the whole narrative of black excellence is that black people get enough success in white society to get up and move away from other black people. Now you tell me that's not true, and I will, you're fucking lying. You tell me that that's not true. You tell me that the entire edifice of black excellence isn't black people coming from low conditions, from low society, from being poor, and having enough success in white society or in white institutions to move away from other black people. You tell me that that's not true, and I'll show you. The person who tells me that's not, show me the person who says it's not true, I'll show you a fucking liar. The Joyanne Reeds, the Don Lemon, these black MAGA Republicans. I can't believe them. Talking about white supremacy, and you married a white man. You married a white man. Not only did you marry him, you're submitting to him. I mean, what kind of bamboozle is this? I mean, it's ridiculous. Joyanne Reed, you're wearing you dye your hair blonde for even the wigs you wear are blonde. You're wearing a white woman's wig. You're going out of your way to fake being white. And you're not even close. You're not even like light skin. You can't pass as white anyways. It's like, what are we talking about here? And you're going to tell me that the black communities aren't out of control? Huh? But that's because it doesn't affect the black bourgeoisie who go to the university. And then they live in their university circles. And they get to go around their little corporate bourgeois yuppie community, and they get to be the black person who everybody kind of gives a red carpet to out of the same narrative that they know they're pushing back on the black communities to keep them down in the hood. So you're the one black person that made it out, and you're intelligent. So now you get to speak on behalf of the rest of us. It's a racket. It's a racket. Al Sharpton and all these bourgeois black folks get to speak on behalf of the rest of us because they made it out of low society. But when you actually go back, and what's sad about it is when you go back and you talk to some of these gang members, they want out. That's the sad part about this whole thing is they actually want out of that. They don't see a way out. A lot of them don't see a way out of it. At the same time, a lot of them a lot of them have accepted that there's no way out of it for selfish reasons, and we got to acknowledge that. Some of you are saying there's no way out, but there is. Some of you are taking the easy way out, and the easy way out is to say there's no way out. It's too hard. It's not too hard. Become an electrician. Be a plumber. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Plumbers and electricians making more money than the bourgeois black liberals that you look up to on right now. Running around here with college degrees doing gig economy marketing job to marketing job versus being a steady plumber. Invest your money each year into your 401k, and before you know it, by the end of the year, you'll be a millionaire, and you can pass on some generational wealth and buy some land. Hopefully, it won't be property taxed and death taxed, so you can start to build a real legacy and have a piece of this country. But y'all don't want to hear that. That's fine. Cool. You don't want to hear that? You want to stay on the Democrat gravy train? How's it working for you? But don't think for 1 second that you're going to get on my social media and say, Royce, you're siding with the white supremacist. Well, Royce, you're using anti-black rhetoric. It's like, what? I grew up in a real neighborhood, a couple of real neighborhoods where there were gangs, there were drugs, there were prostitutes and pimps, there were guns, there was violence. There was death of young black men that left this world far too soon, much like the young men, the young children that we lost today at Annunciation Catholic School. I know what's going on in this country, and so do you. The question is, are you going to be honest about it? The truth has to lead us forward, and that's the only thing that can get us anywhere now. We've gone far enough with the lies. We've gone far enough with the bullshit. We've gone far enough with the narratives and the propaganda. We've gone far enough with the excuses. No more excuses. I love that Donald Trump sent the National Guard into D.C., and I love to see the liberals have to panic and scramble and jump through a bunch of hoops to figure out how they're going to spin it into a negative. When the people there in D.C. are saying, crime's going down. It's gotten better. We hate to say it. And if you don't like it that way, if you don't want overreach of the federal government, if you don't want a police state, if you don't want the National Guard to come to a community near you, I suggest some of you black folks that have been praying and exploiting the black community get together, huddle up and say, hey, we had our run. But now it's time to organize this community and bring some peace and some structure, or else somebody else is going to do it for us. This has been another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio. Powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us. Help support the movement, help fund the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of Annunciation, everybody in our Christian and Catholic community. If you're in Minnesota and you plan on visiting the Minnesota State Fair, make sure you stop by my booth. We got tons of prizes and games. We'd love to get you on the email. There is a fight coming in 2026 for this country and for the Republican Party. If you think for a single moment that Donald Trump winning in 2024 is the defining moment of American history, you are sorely mistaken. It was a victory and a great battle, but the war has just begun. And I guarantee you, when you see them running a Nikki Haley slate in the Minnesota Republican Party with Kristen Robbins, who was the chair of Nikki Haley's 2024 presidential campaign, and Adam Swarzy, who was a congressional chair of Nikki Haley's campaign, I am telling you right now that all of us have to be the eyes and ears for this Republican rhino establishment that does, in fact, love to see the destruction of this country as well. From a different angle, from a different vantage, with a different agenda, with different spoils. But they're in on it. They're in on it. And all of you white folks out there, I spent a lot of time saying niggas are out of control, but and it's true. But all you white folks got to understand, at the same time, that narrative is being used to keep the Republican Party out of these inner cities, to keep Christian missionaries and Christian organizations out of these inner cities and preaching the value of the gospel and the Constitution. I challenge you to go get 2 books tonight, and you keep them with you. You keep a Bible and you keep a Constitution. And when you get a chance, you reach out. You reach for somebody in one of these communities that you think that you can help teach the value of the Constitution and of the gospel. Because despite what the propaganda says, it's true. It ain't all black people. It's black people, and we should be able to say it's black people when we see black people doing stupid shit. But it ain't all black people. And there are plenty of black people that live in black communities who aren't spoken for, who are just as tired of what's going on in the black community as all of you are watching. And they want a way out. They would love a way out. They don't even know what they don't know. They were raised up. They were born and raised in Marxist communist education. As soon as you give them a small grain of the truth, like the black man who walked up to me from Washington, D.C., it has a profound and lasting effect. And that's what I would charge Nick Fuentes with. And I see that he's growing in his popularity. Understand. With great power comes great responsibility, to be cliche. A lot of these black folks don't know any different. They don't know anything different. And so when you tell them the truth, when they hear the truth, they're inspired by it. They're motivated by it. They're encouraged by it. And that's why you see Donald Trump, you know why they really hate Donald Trump? It's not because of his trade policy. That's a big reason, actually. But it's not because of his trade policy. It's not because of his foreign policy. It's not because of his comments or the way that he uses social media. The real reason that the Republican Party, the Republican establishment, and the Uniparty hate Donald Trump is because for the first time in many generations, he opened a pathway for black people to join the Republican Party and join the conservative movement. That's why they hate Donald Trump, because there's nothing more dangerous. That messes up the entire Ponzi scheme of the political elite in this country. That separates black people and white people. How do you separate them? You move the white people to rural America and you crush them with regulation, whether it be in farms or hunting or whatever it is they do. You crush them with regulation while you keep the black people on the social program plantation. This is the way of divide and conquer. We see it. We're waking up to it now. We're almost there. And as much as I say we're almost there, there's still a big fight in front of us. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today and in the future. Again, my thoughts and prayers are with the family of the Annunciation Parish and School and our entire Minnesota Catholic and Christian community, as well as the rest of the country and worldwide. It's a great tragedy when we lose some young students at a Catholic school to such a heinous act of violence. Hopefully we'll be here for Hebrews on Friday. If not, come visit me at the Minnesota State Fair. We'll be back with more. I mean, we this story is developing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get new information that necessitates another episode and more commentary. I hope you're following on social media. Social media is running hot right now, as you would expect. But please, wherever you are, 2026 is a referendum on the Republican Party and the conservative movement. We have to fight to keep this republic now. Donald Trump stuck his foot in the door. You see a door is closed and he sticks his foot in and he kind of props that door open. But you better believe that our enemies are still circling and they're waiting right there for that door to close and the tyranny will begin again. So we appreciate you and Godspeed. God bless you. God bless America. Until next time. Everything's up on the bar. We're all in. We get to decide. Do you want to live on your knees or do you want to die on your feet fighting? That's the decision you get to make now.